the way this thing is, the way LIBOR, which is the index that most swaps are tied to, the way this thing is determined is that banks submit to the British Bankers Association every day an estimate, and it's just a bank submitting a ballpark of what it costs them to borrow from other banks. So like, in simple terms, what this means is a bank is telling publicly, here's how creditworthy we are. Here's how good our credit is. And if we have good credit, then our interest rate, our cost of borrowing will be lower, right? And if we have bad credit, our cost of borrowing will be higher. So it seems that they started in 07, 08 to lowball these rates, which was a way of signaling to the market that like, yeah, no, we're actually okay, we're doing okay, or we're plenty creditworthy, costs us nothing to borrow, we're like, you know, the best borrowers on the planet. Clearly that's not been the case. What this also means is that, and I guess I can just like go back to that graphic just so we understand like exactly what I'm talking about here. So the MBTA is paying 4.5% to the banks are paying 0.2%. So you can see that if the bank lowballs that number, they're going to make more money. Like if the bank could somehow get that down to like 0.05%, they'd make a lot more money. So the word on the street is that in fact the banks have been lowballing that number. Like, and just so we understand like, what a big deal this is, LIBOR is tied to a global market in derivatives, and interest rate swaps are considered a derivative, of $350 trillion. Like, if you ask me, this is the next big multi-state piece of litigation against the banks. Like, I have very little doubt about it. So far, individual states have not acted, but multinational probe, US, UK, Canada, Swiss, Japan, Canada, are all investigating these banks. And also, here's what's really important for our purposes, is the city of Baltimore, which over the past decade has had about 40 different interest rate swaps, is suing many of these banks. So there are 19 banks being sued. The three that I mentioned earlier, UBS, JP Morgan Chase, and Deutsche, are all being either sued or investigated. The city of Baltimore sued several banks specifically because it lost money on interest rate swaps. So like it could not be more relevant to our present situation. It's like the same thing that we're trying to say to the MBTA is like, you are losing money on these swaps. We didn't know that the banks may have been manipulating this rate, but now we would bring it to their attention and say like, look, now you have some leverage. Now you can have a conversation with the banks. So it's been suggested to me that because the city of Baltimore's lawsuit is currently in class action status, there have been a bunch of other pension funds, like a small city in California's pension fund, a West Virginia Carpenters Union pension fund, also sued. It's a class action, and it's been suggested that the T could jump on. And just to kind of go back a step, like the T is not the only Massachusetts government issuer of debt that has interest rate swaps. The state itself has them, the Massachusetts Water Resources Authority has them, the new Mass Building Authority has them. So lots of people could kind of hone in on this manipulation and try to do something about it. And specifically, Attorney General Coakley could act. She's the one who prosecutes financial fraud, and she can do criminal prosecution. And Secretary Galvin, Secretary of State Galvin, is the state securities regulator, and he could also come down. And they have both been very aggressive in the past on investigating and suing over these kinds of things. And then, of course, the last target is the State House. Like, there's no secret, you know, they need to hear that we need a real fix. I'm in the midst of preparing fact sheets for all of the representative and Senate districts in the T service area that show kind of what not the economic impact writ large, like not like lost business and all that stuff, but looking at like, here's what your constituents are going to pay in extra costs associated with fare hikes, gas costs. Here's how many seniors could lose service. Here's how many riders with disabilities could lose service. So we're going to try to get these fact sheets out. I hope by next week, because every Tuesday, Mass Senior Action Council has been leading, well, has been hosting anyone who will come for Transportation Tuesdays, where they go and lobby legislators and have conversations about the impacts of these proposed service cuts and fare hikes. So they need to hear from us, they will hear from us, and I think that's all I got.